hear the music.
Hello, this is Patrick Tufts, and this is your community at your service. Thank you for joining us today. This program focuses on the work of Granite United Way and its partners throughout the greater Concord area. Today we're going to focus on the important topic of financial stability. Our guests are Kerry Gladstone from Casey Family Services and Marilyn Sullivan from UNH Cooperative Extension. Thank you so much for joining us. We're going to jump right into questions. Kerry, what is an asset building coalition?
Well, Pat, first, thank you for the opportunity to talk a little bit about the Concord Asset Building Coalition, one of several around the state that really bring together individuals and organizations that have a common interest in helping particularly working families to become more financially stable. The idea that when I say working families, folks in the low to moderate income range, living in some cases paycheck to paycheck, and not aware of a lot of the resources that are available. And when you look around the Concord area, and here's a good example of bringing together folks like UNH Cooperative Extension, Granite United Way, Casey Family Services, which works with a lot of families that would have vulnerable children that are really struggling to make ends meet. Some of the other partners that have come together in this effort are the IRS, which has a fascinating office that is really involved with reaching out to families that qualify for things like the Earned Income Tax Credit, which is something we'll talk about, but it's a major piece of financial support for families that the IRS says as many as 1 in every 5 eligible families does not claim. So to try to give a financial boost that way, it's interesting to have the IRS as a partner in a project to actually put more money into the hands of local families.
Right, most people hear the word IRS and they say, uh-oh, but in our case, the IRS is a real partner of ours in terms of getting people more financially stable and understanding how to put their own money back in their own pockets.
Exactly.
Well, I think they're working very hard also to make sure, as you say, to get that money to the people that really, really need that money. And one of the things that I just want to jump on to what Kerry was saying, that one of the sort of the initiatives of the asset building coalitions is to really help people maximize the resources. And the coalition, with all the different members and what the expertise and the backgrounds that they bring to that coalition, helps the families to maximize their resources.
That's great. Who are some of the other coalition members? Casey Family Services, UNH Cooperative Extension, Granite United Way?
Catch Neighborhood Housing, which is a nonprofit organization that helps people with housing and financial education.
Yeah.
They've been involved since the beginning. We couldn't do this work as well without some of the folks on the private sector side. Merrimack County Savings Bank and People's United Bank have been involved in helping us expand our mission to really be a year-round proponent of resources, getting folks who may not even have a bank account to walk into a bank, see that there are some folks who can provide some benefit to them there, or if they are, and this is something that has come up in conversations we've had with people who say, yeah, I have a savings account, but I don't have any money in it right now.
Right.
To maybe work with the banks and say, what can it take to really get you financially stable, to be thinking about using resources that are available to everyone, regardless of income.
Because this is not just an immediate strategy. I mean, you're really trying to help people over the long term. It's not just about getting that tax return back. It's about opening up a savings account or paying down high interest credit cards. I mean, you guys really have a lot of strategy behind your work.
I think that what we're trying to do with the Asset Coalition is we recognize people get that refund, and then they have some money right there. They have a windfall that they can then use in different ways. And I think our strategy has really been to help them get that refund, to help them access that windfall, if you will. And then throughout the year, we try to keep our messages going and offer different kinds of opportunities where they can, again, maximize the refund that they do get in ways that will help them build their assets, or to just make sure that they live within their means, that they're able to live within their means.
That's right. And so the Concord Asset Building Coalition has started a few years ago with a 3-pronged strategy. One is to raise awareness about some of the resources at tax time that are really beneficial in the tax code to working families. I mentioned the Earned Income Tax Credit as one of the biggest, which can provide a boost of up to $5,700 for a family with 3 or more children, and that's huge.
That's great.
Awareness about other credits that we can talk a little bit more about, but also to provide this free income tax preparation supported by the IRS with IRS certified volunteers, a quality review method so you know you're getting an accurate return so that you're not forced to go to a commercial preparer, some of whom can charge exorbitant rates. We're hearing of people coming into a tax site and saying that they were previously paying $200 and $300 to have a fairly simple tax return done.
Right.
And so while those outfits, some of whom are very predatory in their practices, are trying to separate people from their money, the Asset Building Coalition is really about not only helping them keep the money that they have coming to them, all of that refund, but then what we talk about when we say asset building is whether it's to build a personal savings account to overcome emergencies, to start dreaming about setting some goals for yourself, whether it's first-time home ownership or college for your kids or even yourself.
Great real-time story. I was in Sandal Auto Parts a couple of months ago talking to a young man who worked there part-time. And he had gone to a for-profit tax preparer, and he said, you know, it was great. They gave me my money really quick, but they took half of my return.
Wow.
Oh,
And
wow.
we talked about going to one of the earned income tax credit sites or a VITA site.
Yes.
And he had gone to the site, and I had seen him again a couple of weeks later, and he was so ecstatic because the one thing I know, you know this, and Marilyn knows this, the VITA sites are free.
Yes.
Right.
People come in, if they meet the income guidelines, they get the rapid return quickly, and it's free. And I think that's just so important for people who are already economically stretched to go and have a trained volunteer prepare that for them and work with them. You know, we just mentioned earned income tax credit. That's $5,000 that in many cases people are entitled to and they don't even know about it.
Right, right.
And so
Some of the other credits that we try to raise awareness about include the Retirement Savers Credit, which is one that a lot of folks who take advantage of it do so accidentally. You know, their employer may set up a retirement program at work, they may contribute a little bit to it, and then they fall into the income guidelines that allow them to do both reducing their taxable income because it's a tax deduction, but understanding that they can also get a credit, which is kind of like a gift card for your taxes. And they can see that, oh, I'm getting this double benefit at the immediate time being, and then they're putting money aside for the ultimate purpose of the benefit of saving money for retirement. And so to then be thinking about what are the ways that you can really maximize this? Does your employer offer a match? And I tell people, if there's any free money out there, take it.
Take it.
Right.
Don't walk away from that. So if an employer says, we'll give you 1, 2, or 3% of your salary as a match, if you put that amount into a retirement fund, that's free money, and in many cases also qualifies for the additional bonus of the Retirement Savers Credit.
right. I know
So
that.
taxes can help you.
Well, and I think that this is
It's
really
fun, as Carrie says.
the theme of our show today is that not-for-profit organizations, educational organizations, for-profit organizations are starting to work together and to collaborate to help people in very different ways.
Right.
You know, this is not the traditional United way, raise money, give money back out. This is a collaborative effort to help people today with those returns, but also to help them with their behavior so that they're in better shape in the long term. I want to ask you both, first, Carrie, how did you get involved in this? I mean, Casey Family Services, Asset Building Coalition.
Right.
How did you get hooked?
Why is a social service agency involved with tax preparation?
Yeah.
It's really because we work with a lot of the most vulnerable families in a variety of ways. And we have social workers and other staff who work with those families around parenting and around overcoming some of life's hazards, whether it's domestic violence, drug and alcohol abuse, mental health issues. But financial stability is something that really is part and parcel to all of that. You know, the more financially stable you are, it seems like the less pressure there would be, the less stress, and the greater likelihood that you can focus on some of the more important things. So to say, how can we work with other agencies in partnership to bring that about? And to say, putting on a financial education class is something that Marilyn can tell you, oftentimes the speakers outnumber the audience. It's tough to get people in the door sometimes because it's not a mandatory thing.
Right.
They don't necessarily see the value of it. But if we can say, we're working together and tax time, it's something that everyone has to do. If we can get you to come in the door, then maybe we can open the door to a further conversation.
I know in our job at United Way, we go out and we work in a lot of corporations and organizations, and during our campaign season, we might talk to tens of thousands of people. When we talk about earned income tax credits or we talk about VITA, we're starting to see a lot of heads nodding because these are folks that are working, In many cases, some of them are working 2 or 3 jobs
Just to make ends meet.
just to make ends meet. And when we talk to them about this program, there's a fit for them.
Yes, and what we're seeing too, Patrick, working with my colleagues in social service, is that they're not accustomed to asking financial questions.
Right.
So to be getting advice from a financial educator like Marilyn and say, asking good questions in addition to the parenting issues, but to say, what bill is giving you the most trouble right now? Are you at risk of losing your home because of eviction or foreclosure? How's your credit situation? What are your financial dreams and goals? And to be able to be comfortable enough to respond well to an answer.
Right.
If someone says, I'm having a lot of difficulty, where do I turn? To be able to say, we have a response to that.
And that's such a great fit for an organization like yours because you already have that trust.
Yes.
You've built that trust with the people you work with, the children, the families, the parents. You've worked with them on other things, so you can have this really sensitive conversation about finances with them.
Right.
And it's not threatening.
Absolutely. One of our social workers said, for some reason, finances are just this very difficult subject. They'll tell us about, sexual abuse as a child or, an alcoholism situation, but get them to talk about money and they start to clam up. So if we can start having that conversation and say, view it as a positive. You as a client, as an individual, bring a lot of strengths. You're a survivor. You may have financial management practices that are a little different than mine, but tell me what you've done to get to this point. Did you know that getting a very large tax refund, for example, means that you're letting the government hold on to your money year-round? And we have that conversation with folks, and they'll say, you know what, I need to have money available for my family. If I were to get it in my paycheck, I'd spend it.
Right.
Well, did you know that if your employer offers direct deposit, for example, you can split off that same amount that's going to the IRS into a savings account?
Yep.
The amount going into your checking account to manage your household finances today remains the same. This money is set aside for emergencies or for some of the other things.
You could pay child care, you could pay medical bills, you could save for your own retirement.
Right.
Repair your car, okay? So
Right.
catch up on some back bills.
Yeah.
A lot of people are doing that.
And looking throughout the year, back to school time,
Right.
As even a low-income family, you want to provide for your kids, have them get nice clothes and shoes just like other kids, and that can put the family behind the 8 ball. And then Christmas time comes right after that. You want to provide for your kids, and you get further behind. And we've even heard stories about families intentionally not paying their December rent in order to free up money for holiday shopping because they can catch up at tax time. That's a very scary way to do business. And so if we can educate folks about a little different way of looking at how they manage their money, they become much less stressed.
Right. So this is really helping, which we've always done, but helping in a business way that allows people to improve their situations.
Yes.
Right.
That's great. We're going to talk a little bit.
Well, I just want to say, too, I think that what we're really doing is we're strengthening families and ultimately strengthening communities. There are many ways that families can be strengthened, and economic success is one of them. And we know that families that are stable, financially stable, that means their most basic needs can be met, then they're able to cope with a lot of different things that come down the path and that they have to face and deal with. So really, that's just one of the core tenets of building strong families and ultimately, as I said, strong communities.
That's great. We're going to come back to this in a second. We're going to go to some important messaging from the United Way. But when we come back, I want to talk a little bit more about the VITA sites, and I want to hear about how you got involved in this, Marilyn. So again, we have an important message from the United Way, and we'll be right back, so please stay with us.
I know that if I didn't have the program, I wouldn't be as strong and successful as I am today.
They helped us build a foundation, and without them, we'd have no foundation. And without a foundation, your family will crumble.
And I wasn't looking for a handout. I just wanted to be able to survive and not lose my home.
They don't always need a teacher. They don't always need somebody, a mom or a dad. They need just somebody to love them, or give them that just a little something extra.
In our society, we're losing sight of the fact that we do have these older adults who have so much to offer to society.
Sometimes I tie shoes, and sometimes I sit and I help them with their math or their spelling.
Catch was responsible for assisting me in obtaining a home mortgage modification and was able to rescue me from illegal foreclosure.
My guidance counselor and my dad recognized, like, oh, this girl needs to step up. And I think that every child who needs a step up should be recognized and given the chance.
Every little bit will help to give our children the future that they need and deserve.
I am going to go to law school, and I'm going to become a constitutional law attorney.
Some people would look at our life as a train wreck. I've actually had somebody say that to me. Well, your life's a train wreck. And I say, no, my life is a gift. My family is a gift. And it may look like a train wreck to other people, but to us, it's family, it's our life, and it's a very happy one. And I have to say it's because of Easter sales. That lady who knocked on our door that day changed our life. And boy, I'll be eternally grateful to her.
Packers. Vikings. Packers. Vikings.
Red state. Blue state.
We come from different places.
Uptown. Downtown.
Optimist. Cynic.
We come to different conclusions.
Half full.
But when we live united, we create real, lasting change in the building blocks of life. The education, income, and health of our communities, our families,
united.
Even the person next to us.
United.
Real change won't happen without you. So give, advocate, volunteer, live united.
Welcome back. I'm Patrick Tufts, and this is your community at your service. We're talking about financial stability today, specifically asset building coalitions. I'm here with Carrie and Marilyn. I was going to call you Sullivan, Maryland. I had it backwards.
Sullivan County.
So, so we're here talking about asset building coalitions. And when we stopped and we went to the break, Carrie had just told us how he got involved with Casey Family Services. And I wanted to ask Marilyn and UNH Cooperative Extension.
Right.
How did you get involved in this?
Well, Cooperative Extension has always had part of its mission to strengthen families and communities. And as part of our expertise with Cooperative Extension, family resource management and financial literacy has always been a piece of helping families succeed. And we know that when families are feeling stable, they do better, they're able to participate in their communities, they require less services and so forth, all the things that we know that are results of families that are in stress. So financial literacy has always been a piece of helping families succeed. And I think it's been 10 years, I'm not exactly sure, 8 to 10 years that Casey Family Services has been involved in pulling the community people together, the coalition together in Franklin, and then of course the coalition grew in Concord as well. And right from the get-go, Cooperative Extension saw that we could offer something, particularly in terms of being able to offer the educational piece, to help people learn the concepts, learn some of the practices, best practices to help them manage whatever money they do get as a return from their tax return every year, how to make some better choices so we can help them move ahead. And it's sort of coming back to, help somebody to catch a fish, as opposed to just feed them the fish.
Yeah, we were talking about that during the break and how the nature of all of our work, United Way, Casey Family Services, UNH Cooperative Extension, how we're changing, and we have to help people become more self-reliant.
Right.
We can't, the resources don't exist to help everybody who needs help all the time. So we have to work with people to help themselves. And by doing that, we are more available to help the entire community.
Exactly.
And we're talking about asset building coalitions, and I think it's really important to focus in on that word coalition. This isn't just one agency. It's not just the United Way, it's not just Casey Family Services, it's not just UNH Cooperative Services. We have to work together. And the coalition, I think, has led us to doing VITA sites, which is something I learned about a couple years ago in United Way, and has really become a big part of what we do. Our 211 program, Information and Referral, has taken 6,000 calls in the last couple of months for people looking for tax aid or tax support. And we're referring them to things called VITA sites. Carrie, could you tell us what a VITA site is and why it's important?
Sure. VITA is Volunteer Income Tax Assistance. And so what it provides is people who are willing to volunteer their time in a very different sort of way, actually become certified as tax preparers, learn a little about the tax code, learn where to look up some of the more difficult questions that can come up in the discussion of how a family is defined these days. And it's fascinating to see every situation you can imagine reflected in the tax code. Families have unfortunately been separated, who can actually legally claim this child as the dependent. We see what in Casey Family Services we call kinship care, grandparents raising their grandchildren while their adult children are unable to do so. And so how does that reflect on the finances of the family? And so to be able to give these folks the opportunity to know that there is a certified preparer assisting them, helping them prepare their tax return, helping them link to other resources is really what the VITA sites are all about. And I think that kind of goes to this broader idea that you may not have Donald Trump-like income, but you can have the same kind of entourage that he does in terms of having a tax preparer, a financial advisor, legal advice from organizations like LARC, Legal Advice and Referral Center, that can give people guidance on issues ranging from their rights as a tenant if they're in a housing situation with a landlord that may have some remediation that can be provided to keep that family in their home. So there are a lot of resources available, and I think 211 has done a terrific job of putting it all at the touch of a couple of buttons so that folks don't have to go hunting around. The VITA sites really try to be bringing that to life, where someone can walk in and have all of those resources laid out in the form of literature, giving some advice. One of the pieces that we have been able to talk to folks about is the individual development account. So that's really asset building. Taking that tax refund and going beyond that and saying, how can we link this? And it's not for all folks, but it was a concept created by a professor of social work who said, a lot of families are living paycheck to paycheck. They can't save enough to make it worth their while to go for something like the down payment on a house. What if that savings were matched? And so in New Hampshire, there is a 3-to-1 match for families that qualify for first-time home ownership, for college education, for a small business, or for a vehicle, which is one asset that depreciates in value. However, if you can't have a reliable vehicle, you're not going to get to work or school or pay for the house. So the idea is that someone who qualifies can put money into an account, and over the course of time, if they can put as much as $2,000 into that account, it's a 3-to-1 match. So it's $6,000 in match money gives them $8,000 toward acquiring that asset.
That's great. So if you look at this strategy, I'm going to get to you in just a second. VITA sites, they go through April 15th. So that's a very specific strategy to help people. Asset building coalitions, this is year round. So there is the immediate, the long term. If somebody wanted information on an IDA or an individual development account, where do they get that information?
Well, they can call 211, certainly, and that's kind of the branding that we want to say. All of those questions can be answered. There are a variety of local organizations that work with New Hampshire Community Loan Fund, which administers the IDA program in our state, statewide. And Casey Family Services has signed on as a partner. Catch Neighborhood Housing, New Hampshire Catholic Charities.
More Than Wheels.
More Than Wheels. There are a number of agencies. operating locally in the Concord area who can do an assessment, and there's a financial education component that's required. And a fascinating study by the Community Loan Fund showed that at the depths of the foreclosure crisis, families that had gone through an IDA to acquire their home and take the accompanying financial education had a much lower rate of foreclosure than those who had not had the financial education in getting their mortgage.
It's very powerful.
Marilyn, if people do nothing else after watching our show today, they should investigate an IDA and figure out what the specifics are of that, or talk to somebody at one of the agencies that was just mentioned.
Well, if they have a savings goal, as Carrie said, for a car, for home ownership, or for starting a business, or for continuing their education, their post-secondary education, definitely these are assets that will contribute to their wealth development in the future. Like you say, even a car, which does depreciate, will help them to get to their job, and hopefully, from there they'll be able to build some assets. But for those people who have that kind of a goal, a very simple goal, and I think you may have mentioned that income eligible, because there is some income eligibility to the IDAs, that is a great way to start moving in the direction for saving, because it's like, as Carrie said, it's like having somebody behind you to support the savings habit that you may be starting yourself with your small amount that you can put aside. So
That's
it's a great way to build assets.
This is what I think is just so fascinating about being involved with the United Way, working to help people in the community, is how we're all changing and evolving. 12 years ago when I started this work, we would not have had this conversation. Now United Way is supporting 5 VITA sites all over the state. You guys are so actively involved in this. Carrie, Marilyn, thank you so much for joining us today. I think you gave a lot of great information, and to the people who are watching, I hope you consider learning more about the Asset Building Coalition. They're doing great work here in the community, and it really is appreciated. So thank you very much. I'm Patrick Tufts. This is your community at your service, and we'll see you next time.